The Healer's Oath. The medical vessel Sanctuary drifted silently through the Kepler Nebula, its white hull gleaming like a pearl against the cosmic darkness. Green crosses painted on every surface marked it as a vessel of healing, protected under the Galactic Medical Accords that every civilized species had signed 3 centuries ago. Inside its sterile corridors, the soft hum of life support systems mixed with the quiet voices of medical staff going about their sacred work. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched the stars drift past the viewport. The scars on her left temple told the story of her past life as a fighter pilot in the border wars. That was before she lost her squadron, before she decided that saving lives mattered more than taking them. Now, at 45, she commanded the most advanced medical ship in the human fleet, and she carried the weight of every life aboard with the same intensity she once carried weapons into battle. Dr. Marcus Chen approached from the medical bay, his surgical scrubs still bearing traces of the morning's operations. Chen was younger than Elena by 10 years, but his eyes held the wisdom of someone who had seen too much suffering across too many worlds. He had joined the Sanctuary's crew after completing his residency on the war-torn planet of New Geneva, where he first treated alien patients alongside human ones. "Morning report, Doctor," Elena said without turning from the viewport. 17 patients in stable condition," Chen replied, consulting his tablet. "The Altarian refugees from the mining accident are responding well to treatment. The human soldiers from the frontier skirmish should be ready for transfer to Earth Medical within the week." Elena nodded. The Sanctuary served as a neutral zone in a galaxy torn by countless conflicts. They treated everyone who needed help, regardless of species, allegiance, or the circumstances that brought them to their doors. It was a philosophy that had earned them respect from most civilizations, but also made them targets for those who saw compassion as weakness. The communication console chirped with an incoming transmission. Lieutenant Sarah Park, the ship's communications officer, looked up with concern. "Captain, we're receiving a distress signal. It's on an emergency medical frequency." "Put it through," Elena ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing the interior of a damaged spacecraft. Smoke filled the air, and the distinct blue-white lighting of Korthak technology cast eerie shadows across the scene. In the center of the transmission sat a figure that made several crew members step backward involuntarily. Commander Zethko of the Korthak Imperial Navy was an imposing sight even when wounded. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, his reptilian features were marked by ritual scars that spoke of countless battles. His golden eyes, usually fierce with predatory intelligence, now dimmed with pain and exhaustion. The Korthak were humanity's enemies in this sector of space, their expansion-driven empire clashing repeatedly with human colonies. "Unknown vessel," Zethko spoke in accented but clear standard. "This is Commander Zethko of the battle cruiser Talon's Reach. Our ship has suffered critical damage from a reactor malfunction. We have wounded requiring immediate medical attention." He paused, his pride clearly struggling with necessity. "We request assistance under the Galactic Medical Accords." Elena felt the tension on the bridge. The Korthak had attacked 3 human colonies in the past year, and many of her crew had friends or family in those systems. But the green crosses on their hull meant something. They represented a promise that transcended politics, species, or war. "This is Captain Vasquez of the medical vessel Sanctuary," she replied. "We acknowledge your distress call and will provide medical assistance. Transmit your coordinates and the nature of your casualties." Dr. Chen moved beside her. "Captain, are you sure about this? The Korthak have been." "I know what they've been," Elena interrupted quietly. "But look at that ship, Marcus. They're dying in there." And we swore an oath. The next hour passed in careful preparation. The Sanctuary's crew readied their medical bays for Korthak physiology, which was different enough from human biology to require specialized equipment. Chen studied the latest medical files on their species while the engineering team prepared the docking bay for the alien shuttles. When the first Korthak shuttle arrived, It carried 12 wounded warriors. Alina watched from the observation deck as they were brought aboard on stretchers, their powerful forms reduced to vulnerability by injury and pain. Some had severe burns from the reactor accident. Others suffered from radiation poisoning that was slowly killing their enhanced immune systems. Zethka himself was among the wounded, though he insisted on walking aboard despite a deep laceration across his torso that leaked green fluid onto the deck. He surveyed the medical bay with obvious suspicion, his hand never straying far from his sidearm despite being in no condition to fight. Dr. Chen approached the Korthak commander with calm professionalism. "Commander, I'm Dr. Chen, Chief Medical Officer. I need to examine your wound." "You are human," Zethke observed, as if this explained everything. "Yes, and you're Korthak," Chen replied evenly. "Right now, you're also my patient. Please lie down so I can treat that injury properly." For a long moment, the two beings stared at each other. Around them, human medical staff were already working on the other wounded Korthak, their movements efficient and gentle despite treating their enemies. Finally, Zethka allowed himself to be guided to a medical bed. As Chen worked on the wound, cleaning and suturing with practiced skill, Zethka watched with growing confusion. "Why do you do this?" he asked. "My people have killed yours. We will likely kill more when this is over." Chen paused in his work, considering the question. "Because someone has to choose to heal instead of harm. Because every life has value, regardless of the choices that brought them here. Because maybe if we show mercy, others will learn to do the same." "Mercy is weakness," Zethko replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" Chen resumed his suturing. "Takes more courage to heal than to kill, in my experience. Any fool can pull a trigger. It takes wisdom to know when not to." Over the next 3 days, something extraordinary happened aboard the sanctuary. The human crew worked tirelessly to save their Korthak patients, sharing medical knowledge and techniques that had never been exchanged between their species. The wounded Korthak, initially suspicious and hostile, began to see their former enemies in a new light. Nurse Jennifer Walsh, a veteran of the colony wars, found herself caring for a young Korthak warrior named Tethbar who had suffered severe radiation burns. Despite her own losses to Korthak attacks, she treated him with the same gentle care she would show any patient. When Tethvar asked why she helped him after his people had destroyed her home colony, she simply said, "Because you're hurt, and I'm a healer." The cultural exchange went both directions. The Korthak shared their advanced understanding of pain management, techniques that could help human patients recover faster from traumatic injuries. Zethka, recovering quickly thanks to Chen's expert care, began teaching the medical staff about Korthak anatomy and physiology, knowledge that could save lives on both sides of the conflict. Captain Alina often visited the medical bay during those 3 days, watching as former enemies worked together to preserve life. She saw hardened warriors from both species learning to see each other as more than targets or obstacles. For a brief moment, it seemed possible that understanding could triumph over hatred. On the final day, as the Korthak prepared to return to their repaired ship, Zethko approached Alina on the bridge. He moved carefully, his injury still healing, but his bearing was more respectful than before. "Captain Vasquez," he began formally, "I wish to speak before we depart." Alina turned from her command console. "Of course, Commander." "What your people have done here," Zethka struggled with the words. "It challenges much of what I believed about humans. You could have let us die. Your military would likely have rewarded such a choice. But it would have been wrong," Alina replied simply. "Yes," Zethko agreed, surprising himself. "It would have been wrong." He straightened, coming to attention. "Captain, I give you my word as a warrior that no Korthak under my command will fire upon this vessel. The sanctuary will be protected." Alina extended her hand in the human gesture of respect. After a moment's hesitation, Zethko took it, his large clawed hand engulfing hers completely. "I hope this is the beginning of something better between our peoples," Alina said. "As do I," Zethko replied, though both knew the path ahead would be difficult. As the Korthak shuttles departed, Dr. Chen joined Elena on the bridge. They watched the alien vessel disappear into hyperspace, carrying with it wounded warriors who had experienced human compassion firsthand. "Think it will make a difference?" Chen asked. "Maybe," Elena said. "Maybe one act of mercy leads to another. Maybe understanding spreads the same way hatred does." Neither of them could know that their act of compassion had planted seeds that would grow in unexpected ways. Zethko would return to his fleet with stories of human mercy that would spread among the younger warriors. Some would begin to question the necessity of eternal war. Others would carry the knowledge that humans could be healers as well as fighters. But they also could not foresee the darkness that was coming. In the highest levels of the Korthak Empire, Supreme Admiral Vextor was planning something that would test the limits of human forgiveness. The mercy shown aboard the Sanctuary would soon be repaid with betrayal so complete that it would transform the galaxy's understanding of what humans were truly capable of when pushed beyond their breaking point. The Sanctuary continued its mission, its crew believing they had made a difference in a small corner of a vast and troubled galaxy. They carried with them the hope that compassion could bridge even the deepest divides between species, that healing could triumph over hatred. They were both right and terribly wrong. Their mercy would indeed change everything, but not in the way they imagined. Sometimes the greatest act of compassion sets in motion the most terrible consequences, and sometimes the price of showing humanity's capacity for good is revealing its equal capacity for absolute, unstoppable vengeance. When mercy dies, 6 months after the encounter with Commander Zethka, the medical vessel Sanctuary received an emergency evacuation order that would seal the fate of 2 civilizations. The distress call came from the civilian transport New Dawn, carrying 800 colonists from the failing agricultural world of Haven's Rest. Their ship had suffered catastrophic engine failure while passing through the neutral zone, leaving families, children, and elderly colonists stranded in space with life support failing. Captain Elena Vasquez stood in the bridge briefing room, studying the tactical display with her senior staff. The rescue would be complex but routine for a ship of Sanctuary's capabilities. They had performed dozens of similar evacuations during their years of service. Estimated time to complete evacuation. Elena asked her operations officer. 4 hours to transfer all civilians, assuming no complications, Lieutenant Commander Park replied. The New Dawn's life support will hold for 6 hours, so we have a comfortable margin. Dr. Chen reviewed the medical requirements on his tablet. We'll need to convert cargo bays 3 and 4 into temporary shelter areas. Some of the colonists have been in stasis for months and will need time to recover. Nothing we haven't handled before. Elena nodded, but something nagged at her. Intelligence reports had indicated increased Korthak activity in nearby systems, though nothing that should threaten a medical evacuation. Still, her instincts from her fighter pilot days whispered warnings he couldn't quite identify. Commander Torres, she addressed her tactical officer, what's our escort situation? 2 Earth Defense Force frigates are supposed to rendezvous with us, but they're delayed by engine problems. We'll be operating alone until they arrive, Torres replied grimly. Elena made her decision. We proceed. Those colonists can't wait for military escorts. Set course for the New Dawn's position, maximum safe speed. The Sanctuary's journey to the stranded transport took 12 hours through hyperspace. When they dropped back into normal space, Elena felt her breath catch at the sight before them. The New Dawn hung dead in space, its hull scarred by multiple explosions, debris spreading slowly from gaping holes in its superstructure. Medical emergency broadcast on all frequencies, Elena ordered. Begin immediate evacuation procedures. The next 3 hours were a testament to human efficiency and compassion under pressure. Sanctuary shuttles made continuous runs between the 2 ships, evacuating families in order of medical priority. Elena watched from the bridge as mothers carried sleeping children, elderly colonists supported each other, and volunteers stayed behind to help others escape first. Dr. Chen worked tirelessly in the medical bay, treating everything from radiation exposure to broken bones suffered when the New Dawn's artificial gravity failed. The ship's corridors filled with the sound of children crying, adults praying in a dozen languages, and the steady voices of the crew providing comfort and hope. "Captain," Lieutenant Park called from the communications station, her voice tight with concern. "I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures approaching. Large ones." Elena moved to the sensor station. On the display, 6 massive shapes were emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. The computer's identification was immediate and chilling. Corthek battle cruisers, configured for assault operations, distance and closing speed. Elena asked, though she already feared the answer. "They'll be in weapons range in 20 minutes, Torres reported. "Captain, we still have 400 civilians aboard the New Dawn." Elena's mind raced through options. The Sanctuary was fast for a medical ship, but could never outrun Corthek battle cruisers. They could abandon the remaining civilians and try to escape with those already aboard, but that would mean condemning 400 innocent people to death. "Open a channel to the Corthek fleet," she ordered. The main screen filled with the bridge of the lead battle cruiser. Elena recognized the figure immediately, though he had changed since their last meeting. Supreme Admiral Vextor was an ancient Corthek whose career spanned 5 decades of conquest. Unlike the Honorable Zethka, Vextor was known for his ruthlessness and his belief that mercy was the greatest weakness a warrior could show. "This is Captain Vasquez of the medical vessel Sanctuary," Elena began formally. "We are conducting a civilian evacuation under the Galactic Medical Accords. We request safe passage for our humanitarian mission." Vextor's laugh was like grinding metal. "Humanitarian mission? You humans and your precious mercy. Did you show mercy to our colonies when you burned them? Did you think of humanitarian concerns when you killed our younglings?" "Admiral, we are a medical vessel with protected status under—" "I know what you are," Vextor interrupted. "I know of your ship's reputation, how you treated our wounded, how you convinced some of our younger warriors that humans could be trusted." His golden eyes blazed with ancient hatred. "That ends today." Elena felt ice form in her stomach. "Admiral, there are 800 civilian colonists aboard these ships. They're not combatants. They're families, children, elderly people trying to reach safety. Then they chose poorly when they placed their trust in human protection." Vextor replied coldly. "Today, the galaxy learns what happens to those who show mercy to their enemies." The transmission cut off. Elena stood frozen for a moment, unable to believe what she had heard. The Corthak were going to attack a clearly marked medical vessel, breaking every law of civilized warfare. "All shuttles, emergency recall," she ordered. "Begin immediate evacuation of remaining New Dawn passengers. Maximum capacity, ignore safety margins." "Captain," Torres said quietly, "they're powering weapons, all 6 ships." Elena made the hardest decision of her life. Send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them what's happening here. Tell them the Corthek Empire has chosen to murder medical personnel and civilians. She paused, her voice breaking slightly. "Tell them we died trying to save innocent lives." The first plasma torpedo struck the New Dawn, splitting it in half in a brilliant explosion. The 400 remaining colonists died instantly, their hopes for safety extinguished in seconds. The Sanctuary shuttles, racing back with the last evacuees, were caught in the debris field. 2 shuttles were destroyed, taking their passengers and crew with them. "Return fire," Elena ordered, though she knew it was futile. The Sanctuary's defensive weapons were designed to deter pirates, not battle cruisers. Their plasma batteries fired desperately at the approaching Corthek fleet, but their shots barely scratched the enemy's heavy armor. More torpedoes found their mark. The Sanctuary's hull cracked under the assault, atmosphere rushing out through the breaches. In the medical bay, Dr. Chen worked frantically to evacuate patients to the more heavily shielded cargo areas, but there was nowhere truly safe on a ship being torn apart by military-grade weapons. Alina's last act was to record a final message in the ship's emergency beacon. "This is Captain Alina Vasquez of the medical vessel Sanctuary. We were attacked while conducting a civilian evacuation. The Korthik Empire has deliberately targeted medical personnel and refugees in violation of all galactic law. We showed them mercy once. They repaid it with murder. Tell Earth. Tell them to remember what we tried to build here." The reactor breach that destroyed the sanctuary lit up the system like a small star. In the explosion's light, the debris of 2 ships and the lives of 1,200 innocent people slowly dispersed into space. The news reached Earth 18 hours later. Admiral Sarah Kingston, commander of the Earth Defense Coalition, sat in her office reading the final transmission reports when her aide knocked. "Admiral, you need to see this." The recording played on her wall screen. Alina Vasquez's final words, calm and professional even as her ship died around her. The sensor logs showing the deliberate targeting of medical and civilian vessels. The complete recording of Vextor's contemptuous dismissal of human mercy. Kingston had served for 30 years, through border skirmishes and colony disputes. She had always advocated for diplomatic solutions, for the kind of restrained response that kept conflicts from escalating into total war. But as she watched the sanctuary die, something fundamental changed in her worldview. She activated her emergency communications array, connecting to every major Earth government and military installation simultaneously. The faces that appeared on her screens represented the most powerful humans in known space. "The Korthik Empire has crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed," she began without preamble. "They have deliberately murdered medical personnel, civilians, and refugees. They have repaid our mercy with calculated cruelty." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "I am recommending immediate implementation of total war protocols." The debate that followed was brief and unanimous. Within 6 hours, the Earth Defense Coalition was mobilizing resources that had been held in reserve for decades. Research projects that had been theoretical became urgent priorities. Shipyards that had built 1 vessel per month began working around the clock to produce 10. The transformation was breathtaking in its scope and speed. Humanity revealed technologies they had developed but never deployed, weapons systems that had been designed but never built, strategic capabilities that had been planned but never implemented. The galaxy watched in growing alarm as the normally peaceful humans began assembling a war machine of unprecedented scale. Dr. Marcus Chen's notes, recovered from the sanctuary's wreckage, included detailed files on Korthik physiology, learned during their brief period of cooperation. Those files became the foundation for weapons specifically designed to target Korthik biology. The mercy shown to Commander Zethka became the key to his people's destruction. The war that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Where previous conflicts had been limited affairs with defined objectives, humanity waged total war with systematic efficiency. They didn't just defeat Korthik military forces, they dismantled their entire civilization with methodical precision. Korthik worlds surrendered not to occupation but to complete transformation. Their military infrastructure was not captured but erased. Their leadership was not imprisoned but eliminated entirely. Within 2 years, the mighty Korthik Empire simply ceased to exist, its people scattered to refugee camps on distant worlds. Commander Zethka, who had spoken so eloquently about human mercy, found himself commanding the last Korthik stronghold as human forces closed in. In his final transmission before the base fell, he spoke words that would be remembered across the galaxy. "We thought humans were weak because they showed us mercy. We were wrong. They are terrifying precisely because they can choose mercy or vengeance, and they remember which choice you forced them to make." The galaxy that emerged from the ashes of the Korthik Empire was fundamentally different. Other species looked at humanity with new understanding. The same beings who would risk everything to save their enemies' lives would respond to betrayal with absolute, unstoppable retribution. Medical ships still sailed between the stars, their green crosses shining like beacons of hope. But now those symbols carried a different message. They spoke not just of humanity's capacity for healing, but of the terrible consequences that awaited anyone who mistook compassion for weakness. The Mercy Protocol, as it came to be known, became the foundation of human foreign policy. Humanity would extend aid, healing, and hope to all who asked. But the price of betraying that trust was complete and total destruction. Captain Elena Vasquez and Dr. Marcus Chen were remembered not just as heroes, but as martyrs whose deaths transformed human civilization from peaceful healers into the galaxy's most formidable guardians of peace. Their mercy had not been weakness. It had been the final test of whether the galaxy could accept human compassion. The galaxy had failed that test, and humanity had responded by becoming something both wonderful and terrible. A species that would heal their enemies' wounds one day and erase their civilization the next, depending entirely on which choice those enemies forced them to make. In the end, the Sanctuary's mission had succeeded beyond its crew's wildest dreams. They had indeed changed the galaxy forever, teaching every species the true depth of human nature and the absolute certainty that mercy betrayed would be answered with vengeance absolute.